officially draft day. We made it. I am so excited. April has been a pretty long month. At least March, we had free agency, some excitement, and April, it's just been leading up until this day, and the draft is officially here. I am so excited. I'm going to give my final prediction in this video, so make sure you stick around to the end. But let's get right into it and talk about this, because this has been a common talking point, I think, in the last week or so, especially the last 24 hours, 48 hours, knowing that Adam Schefter announced that both the Giants and the Browns are taking calls for the number 3 spot. And this is what I have to say to that is he should be. Joe Schoen should be taking calls. I would rather my GM be open to all different possibilities and say, let me see what these people are willing to offer. Let me do some negotiating. And if I think this deal is really good, then I'm going to take it, instead of saying, we're staying put, we're taking Saquon Barkley, and everyone knows that we are taking Saquon Barkley at number 2, and we are not even considering other options. That is idiotic. That is hurting your team for now and the future. And that is what Dave Gettleman did. And listen, I have faith that Joe Schoen is better than that. I already know he's better than that. And he is not going to just say, we're staying put and picking here because that's our guy. And listen, I love Abdul Carter. I will be absolutely thrilled if the Giants pick him at 3. I will. Or Travis Hunter, whoever's available. But this is the one scenario where I would move out of the 3 spot. And I think that if they move from 3, you have to stay in the top 10. These are my conditions. Must stay in the top 10. Must have a 2026 first rounder. I am going nowhere if you're not offering me a 2026 first rounder. And moving from 3 to 5 or 3 to 7, you're probably not getting there. But I think you can stay within the top 10. I think they can trade with the 9th team or the 10th team and see about getting a first round for 2026. And that's what I would be on board with, because there are still a lot of good players in this draft. I think if you can get Mason Graham, if you can get Will Campbell, if you can get, someone who can also step in and be a day 1 starter and a 2026 first rounder, you can get your quarterback, Nussmeier, Lenora Sellers, one of those guys. You never know who it's going to be. The more that you have for next year, the better. So those are the 2 things that must happen for me, or I am not budging. You guys let me know what you think about that. Would you move for less than that? In my opinion, no. I just think you can't. You have to focus on making this team better for now and the future, and getting future stock and future draft picks. A 2026 first rounder is so important, especially if I'm giving up Abdul Carter. I'm not giving up Abdul Carter for 2nd and 3rd round picks. It is not happening, not on my watch. All right, so let's move along to my favorite players in the draft, because I have a lot of them. I'm not going to talk through them all. I'll go through like the top 5, 10 that I love and who, ideally I would love to be on the Giants, but I think that obviously it doesn't always all work out like that. So obviously I love Abdul Carter. I think that he's a perfect fit for the Giants. I think that if they draft him, we are in good hands. And to have a rotational, really good pass rush like we did when we won Super Bowls, defense wins championships, is what I want from this football team. And Abdul Carter is that guy, so I love him. We'll just stick with edge for a second. I also love Josiah Stewart, and I think that he would be a good option if the Giants don't go Abdul Carter at 3 for whatever reason. Let's just say that they pick Shedeur Sanders. I like Josiah Stewart in another round. There are obviously other guys in the top 10, but I think if you're passing on Abdul Carter, it's not to take Jalen Walker, right? Like, you're passing on him because you're taking a quarterback, and that's probably the end-all be-all of that conversation. So I really like Josiah Stewart from Michigan. He is a guy that I really like and think would do well here. So he would be my option for that. For quarterbacks, I like Jalen Milroe and Will Howard. Those are my 2 guys that I would be happy to see the Giants go after. I would not be happy if they traded into the first round for either one of them. Will Howard, fireable offense if they do anything remotely close to that. If they trade into the first for Milroe, I get it. I'm not thrilled about it, and I don't really think it's a great idea, because I think that with all this hype and stuff that's going on with him, you're going to have to trade away a lot to do that, and I'm just not on board with that. I like Milroe. I don't love him to the degree that I'm willing to give up a ton of draft picks to move from 34 into the first round to get him. So That's where I'm at with that. Let's talk about tight ends. Obviously, Elijah Arroyo is a great prospect. I also really like Mason Taylor from LSU. So those would be my top two options for there. Wide receiver, my number one guy is Savion Williams because I just think he is going to be in a position for the Giants to get him maybe probably in round 3. I think he's going to be a really good addition to this football team, good at contested catches. He's tall. I think he's kind of going to be like maybe what we hoped Jalen Hyatt was going to be. I don't know, but Jalen Hyatt needs some competition. So I really like Savion Williams and would be thrilled if the Giants drafted him at some point. For defensive linemen, there are a lot of really great options. So I think I would be happy with a lot of them. Derek Harriman is a guy that I really like, who I also think would be a good option for the Giants. TJ Sanders from South Carolina, I love him. He did a really nice job. Could be available for the Giants in round 2. I don't know if they would want to pick him as high as 34, but if that's the case, I'm really on board with him. Walter Nolan, is another guy that could be an option for the Giants if he falls to 34. I would love him on this Giants team. Let's talk about running backs. I talked about Cam Scatabo. He is a guy that I think would fit right in with this Giants team. Obviously, I love Omarion Hampton as well, but I just don't think that he's going to fall to 34. And as much as I would love a good running back on this team who's explosive and can catch the ball and do all sorts of things like that, I just am not sold on picking one at 34. This roster already has quite a few running backs, and I just think that you can get a better value position there for what this team needs, like a defensive tackle, like an offensive lineman. So I'm down with picking a running back. Like I said, Cam Scatabo, you can take him later. Would be thrilled. Corners, you guys know I love Azariah Thomas. Another guy that I also love from Louisville is Quincy Riley. There have been some comps made to Sauce Gardner, obviously not as good as Sauce Gardner coming out of college, but the potential to be that in the NFL, and I love him. I think he's a great pick for the Giants. I also love Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame, but I don't think he's going to make it to the Giants unless he falls to 34. Even still, I don't think the Giants are going to go for cornerback that early. Never know. I just don't see it. What other positions are I missing? Let's talk about offensive linemen, because that is obviously a position of need for this team. I've talked a lot about Donovan Jackson. I really love him, the fact that he can play tackle and he can play guard. I love the versatility that he brings. I love the fact that he moved from guard to tackle in essentially the middle of the season and didn't miss a beat, was able to step right in and be serviceable from day one. Impeccable. Love that about him. Josh Simmons is the tackle from Ohio State that ended up getting injured, which is why Donovan Jackson had to move over. So Josh Simmons would also be a great option, potentially at 34 for the Giants. If he makes it there. Would it be a little bit early for him? Maybe, but you never know. Guard. Oh my God, I literally just lost his name. We'll get back to him in a second. Let's talk about Josh Connerly Jr. He is an offensive tackle that also could be an option for the Giants. He's projected to go end of round 1, so he can make it to the Giants at 34. Another option at 34 is Gray Zabel. This is the guy that I was just about to talk about, and I completely went out of my mind. A lot of players to talk about. So anyway, he's a great option for the Giants. Good guard, good competition for Greg Van Roten. And I like Greg Van Roten, but we need versatility and we need guys who are going to compete, and may the best man win. Okay, what other positions am I missing? I did wide receiver, running back, quarterback, offensive line, corner. Should we do safety? Let's do safety real quick. I actually don't really think that the Giants are going to take a safety in this draft because of what they did in free agency, because they just drafted Tyler Nubin. You never know. I love Nick Amenwari from South Carolina. The guy is an absolute athletic freak, but I don't think he's going to make it to us because he's projected to go in round 1. So I think he could go mid to late round 1 and he has no chance of falling to the Giants. However, if he manages to fall to them at 34, would I take him? I would absolutely think about it, and I would think about it a lot. Another guy that I really liked was Sebastian Castro from Iowa. I saw him at the Senior Bowl and was very impressed with what I saw from him. So he's a guy that I like. He's more of a round 3 prospect, but if the Giants decide to go safety, keep your eyes peeled for him, potentially in round 3. Malachi Moore from Alabama is a 4th round safety projected. So that's another guy to keep your eyes on. So let's see. I did so we covered off on basically every position. The last thing I want to talk about is linebacker, because I do think there is a possibility that the Giants are going to go after a linebacker in this draft. Jihad Campbell from Alabama is a name to watch at 34. He is a round 2 prospect. Listen, it all depends on what the Giants feel is the best player available at all of these picks, and also filling a spot of need. So you can argue that they do need a linebacker. It would be great to have another one in the building, knowing that Micah McFadden is on his last year of his deal. I don't know what they're going to do with him, but are they going to go for him? Then I'm just not so sure. So those are some of the guys that I love. Do I think the Giants have a shot at some of them? Absolutely. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that they get a couple of those. So this is my final prediction for the Giants draft. I think at pick number 3, they are picking Abdul Carter. I don't think they are moving. I think that is their guy. They met with him 5 times. Abdul Carter just did some interview where he said that if he had to pick where he thinks he's going, it's to the New York Giants, and he is excited and ready to get to work. Music to my ears. That's what I want to hear from these guys. So Abdul Carter at 3, I think that's what the Giants are doing. At 34, my guess is that it's either going to be an offensive lineman. So it's either going to be someone like Josh Connerly Jr., who might slip out of the first round, or Josh Simmons, someone you could get at the top of the first round. Those are both tackles. From a guard, I think it could be Donovan Jackson. I personally would take Donovan Jackson if he's there, because like I said, he's got the guard tackle flexibility, and I love that about him. If it's not offensive line and they go defensive line, those are the 2 positions that I really want to see them hit at 34. It's got to be one of those 2 for me. And if it's not one at 34, then it can be the other one at 65. So TJ Sanders, my guy from South Carolina, if they can get him at 34, I would love it. Derek Harmon is another guy to watch that could slip out of the first round to 34. So those would be my ideal top picks at 3 and 34. I am hoping that is what they do. And then at 65, it can be, like I said, one or the other. 99, I would like to see it be someone like Will Howard. 105 can be a running back like Cam Scatterbo. Swap them out. Those are the positions, and those are the guys that I really would like to see the Giants take. I also really like Savion Williams, so if they want to move and get a wide receiver and go after him in one of those spots, I think that's also a perfect scenario. Towards the end of the draft, I would like to see them go for maybe like a linebacker, another defensive tackle, a safety, something like that, where you can bring a guy in that's maybe going to be competing for a good backup spot at that position in the draft. That's what I'm on for. But those are deep spots in this draft. It's also a deep edge class. So if they don't go for Abdul Carter, then they're going to have the option to get an edge at some point throughout this draft too. So those are my predictions. Abdul Carter 3, offensive line or defensive line at 34. And I hope it's one of those 4 players that I talked about. You guys let me know what your final prediction is for the Giants tonight. And make sure you join me live, because I'm live streaming and it is going to be a hell of a lot of fun.